My ever-faithful companion, Dark Magician!
Welcome along, fellow Dark Magician enthusiasts, to another video. In today's video, I'm going to go over some various tips and tricks that you can use in your Dark Magician decks to help drive your duels in the game further towards your advantage. Some of the contents of this video are going to be things I have already covered in my written guide on Duel Links meta and on this channel, whereas other parts of the video are strategies I haven't covered before on the channel. These tips mainly apply for Duel Links and do not necessarily apply for Master Duel, the TCG format, or OCG format. So be aware if you play any of those other formats, this video may not be for you. With that being said, let's get into it. The first tip I'm going to talk about involves the game's duel settings. This is the very first step in improving your gameplay overall, as the game initially sets a majority of the options to auto or off. You should adjust your settings to the following configuration: card position to manual to, chain to self-chain on, activation order to manual, and activation confirmation to toggle button. These settings give you a lot more control over your cards and your activation timings, as well as giving you more options for when you want to activate various quick effects. I will go through each setting one by one. Card position set to manual 2 means that you can choose where to place your cards instead of letting the game choose for you. This allows you to prevent or assist activating any effects that might be triggered when a monster is summoned to a specific zone, and can also help get around column-centric decks such as Mech Knights and S-Force. It also helps in letting you set your face-down spells and traps in a specific order, which can be useful for baiting out your opponent's effects and divert their attention away from the spells and traps that you don't want your opponent to hit. Chain set to self-chain on allows you to play the game much more freely and allows you to pull various combos by being able to activate effects in response to your own effect activations. You should always have this on no matter what. Activation order set to manual is where Duel Links has massively improved recently. When activation order is set to auto, the game will ask if you want to activate trigger effects in a very specific order, leaving you very little room to dodge any trigger effects your opponents may have. With it set to manual, however, it works just like Master Duel does with trigger effects, letting you activate optional trigger effects in any order you'd like. This opens up a lot more strategies and pushes your dueling to a much higher level. And finally, activation confirmation set to toggle button gives you the option to switch freely between off, on, and auto. Auto will let you respond with quick effects only during important points of the turn, such as when an attack is declared, when your opponent activates or resolves an effect, and before the turn ends. Switching to on, however, gives you more control of when you want to activate quick effects, after a card has been set, and much more. This is vital for making very specific plays you normally couldn't do when it's left on auto. Switching to off can be used to create bluffs by tricking your opponent into thinking you have no effects to activate. Not all players can be tricked by this, however, so you'll need to be careful with how you use the off toggle. Also, it can backfire if you accidentally leave it off and forget to switch it back to auto or on. None of your effect activations will come up if you leave it off. So now that we have the most important tip out of the way, let's dive into the Dark Magician specific tips. Apprentice Illusion Magician is very commonly used as a battle trap to increase the attack of your Dark Spellcaster in order to deal more damage to the opponent. But did you know that it can also be used defensively? Apprentice increases not just the attack of your Dark Spellcaster that's in battle, but it also increases its defense as well. This can be a lifesaver when going up against a high attack monster or any monster that can deal piercing damage. Magical Dimension requires you to control a spellcaster monster in order to activate it. But did you know that you don't need to target a spellcaster with it? Paired with Crackdown, you can steal your opponent's monster, then use Magical Dimension to target the monster you just stole, tribute it, and summon a spellcaster from your hand. This is especially handy in situations where your opponent might try to destroy your Crackdown, forcing them to waste cards and watch as their monster is tributed. Successor Soul is great as a means of getting rid of an opponent's monster that you either can't beat over or needs to be destroyed to activate its effects. If you switch your activation toggle to on and no trigger effects are activated when you link summon Imdark, you can immediately activate Successor Soul and dodge any effects that would target a monster you control. Now what if you had the Dark Magicians and Piercing the Darkness on your field, but you have nothing else you can summon, and your opponent has one face-up monster left on their field? If you use Dark Magical Circle to set the top of your deck up with cards like Crackdown or Compulsory Evacuation Device, and then move to the battle phase and declare an attack, Piercing the Darkness can boost the Dark Magician's attack points, which will end up letting you activate the Dark Magician's trigger effect, setting the card you drew to your field and then immediately activating it to get the opponent's monster off their field clears the way for an easy OTK. This can be quite fun to pull off. Another note about the Dark Magicians is that its effect to summon DM and DMG if it's destroyed can still activate even if it's destroyed after being fusion summoned in the middle of a chain. The effect can be activated on the next chain as long as it doesn't change locations before you activate the effect. This allows you to quickly prepare defenses against your opponent instead of being left with nothing. Did you know that Chronicle Magician can special summon itself from your hand if you summon a different Chronicle Magician? With the Battle Chronicle skill giving you the ability to normal summon Chronicle Magician without tributing, 2 Chronicle Magicians in your starting hand can easily set up a rank 7 XZ summon without using up any Dark Magicians. Both Dark Cavalry and Dark Paladin require you to discard a card in order to activate their effects. But what if you had a DM in hand, no DM in your graveyard, and an Eternal Soul on your field? Instead of summoning DM from the hand with Eternal Soul, wait until you use Dark Cavalry or Dark Paladin's effect to discard the DM, then use Eternal Soul to summon the DM you just discarded from your graveyard. This can help stop you from prematurely running out of cards for discarding, while also benefiting from discarding at the same time. If you need to activate the Battle Chronicle skill, but you have no other non-effect monsters to send, and there's already a DM on your field or in your graveyard, you can XZ summon and take the DM off the field, or you can banish the DM from your field or graveyard to take it off the field, allowing you to activate the skill once again. With the Magician's Magic skill, if you activate the skill's effect to add Secretive Dark Magic from your deck or graveyard to your hand, your deck is not shuffled afterwards. This is useful for getting cards out of your deck while keeping the top cards you may have sorted by Dark Magical Circle in the same order. What if you use the Bane of Darkness skill and want to put Buster Blader on the field, but it's in your hand? If you have DM in your hand, you can activate the skill, shuffle back the Buster Blader, and play the very same Buster Blader from your deck. And that is all for today in terms of tips and tricks. Not every single Dark Magician tip, trick, or combo was covered in this video to avoid increasing this video's length to an extremely long video, as I wanted to keep this video nice and short. There's plenty more combos and ideas out there waiting to be discovered, but if you have any tips you'd like to share, put them in the comments below. With that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.